If the sad and silly saga of Dr. Karen Stollznow, Ph.D., and her husband, Matthew Baxter, punching bag, proves anything, it's that stupid is as stupid does, and totally self-absorbed neurotics tend to follow up one bad decision with another. In this case, it's in taking the My Final Peace Offering letter, in which I offered to lay off them for their latest attempt at silencing and harassment, specifically their crippling DMCA claim, in exchange for them withdrawing the claim, if that was at all possible at that point. In other words, I was giving them an out for, yet again, engaging in a dead-eye sniper attack on their own feet. At the same time, I reiterated that Stollznow's original, premeditated, and drawn-out malicious attack on Ben Radford would never be off the table. Rather than run around trying to whitewash the internet of her own hateful, vindictive, and generally bugnuts behavior, Karen Stollznow should own her behavior and learn from it, within the limitations of her own pathology, which, it's clear, is a mental state that continues to compel her to lash out at others for failing to protect her from the consequences of her own actions, rather than face up to those actions and, like someone with a functional conscience, make amends. Unfortunately, Stollznow seems to be motivated by the need to manipulate and control, and conscience isn't something that bothers her that much. What's more, I now have no doubt that Karen Stollznow and Matthew Baxter were not open to amicably settling the issue of their DMCA claim because it came with an ulterior motive. That is, one of the most prolific, relentless, and mendacious serial harassers on the internet, Karen Stollznow, and her personal minion Baxter wanted to have access to my personal information, full legal name and address, and now they have it. And they will no doubt spread that information through their network of people who willingly aided and abetted them in their original unfounded and slanderous attacks on Ben Radford, and those skeptics who went against the tide of the skeptical community and continued to behave as skeptics, who put a higher value on the truth rather than cynical, believe the victim virtue signaling and moral posturing. As far as the reprieve request, Stollznow and Baxter seem to have no concept of cause and effect. Rather than withdraw the vindictive and dox-happy DMCA claim, in return for which I would stop bringing it up every chance I got, they want me to stop talking about it and them and everything they've ever done, which wasn't part of the agreement in the first place, in exchange for their doing absolutely nothing. It's like having a serial backstabber say, "After you," and then getting offended when you don't show a complete lack of guile by walking in front of them. Now, the documents in question aren't going to read very well on YouTube, and so I've linked an Imager album in the description bar. The takeaway is that my response to their lawyer's reprieve letter is that it's an attempt by Karen Stollznow, serial harasser and abuser, and her enabler Baxter, to once again portray herself as a victim when held to account for victimizing others. The problem is that Stollznow, except for a select few complete idiots and ideologues, has no one left to lie to. What's more, both herself and Baxter are public figures, a status they have endlessly self-promoted themselves to obtain. And even if they weren't, incidents such as Baxter trying to beg $30 out of the Wrecking Crew podcast, a link to which is included as well, along with Vito D'Amico discovering the depth of Stollznow's rabbit hole through my videos, is a matter of public record. That is, recounting the truth is not harassment. Pointing out the reality of someone's lies and malicious actions cannot itself be malicious. The truth is the best defense. And even if that weren't the case, as public figures, I can essentially parody the two of them as much as I please. Now, we will see what Stollznow and Baxter will do, which is something unpredictable, as Stollznow is motivated by her own demons, and Baxter, his self-preservation is contingent on appeasing her at all cost. What's more, their primary motivation at this point is frustration and fear. They desperately want to be given a do-over for all their shitty behavior, so they can go back to being somewhat well-respected, if low-profile, public figures in the skeptical community. Yet, so far, I've survived everything they've thrown my way, and will survive whatever half-assed comic book villain masterstroke they have in the works. Basically, they will keep throwing themselves into the meat grinder of the micromedia sausage factory. Or, and this is a long shot, they can wise the hell up and stop doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Silly boilerplate from a lawyer, which tries to solicit completely undeserved sympathy and contains implied promises that they, as their past behavior has shown, they have little intention to keep, just isn't going to cut it. My offer stands to both of these recalcitrant ass clowns. Stop threatening me as you have just done. Stop harassing me. Stop trying to silence me. And I will stop. There's a direct cause and effect relationship here. Pointing out your threats, harassment, and attempts to silence me. If that isn't something they can manage, their agency sublimated to some self-destructive, obsessive-compulsive urge, then I will gladly spend the next 6 months under the crippling restrictions of their punitive silencing, doxing tactics, and gleefully make fun of them. That's not a threat by any reasonable definition of the term. What it is, and this is probably an alien concept to Stollznow and Baxter, it's simply what anyone who isn't a complete doormat would do when a couple of idiot scumbags wrongly think they are entitled to impose their will on others.
After